Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I am at the racetrack getting ready to make some pulls in the 240SX once again. So I made a bunch of changes since I was here at Mocan last, and it took quite a few weeks to work through all those changes and get the car working, so that's why there hasn't been any video content for a while. So where I'm at with it right now is I've got a new PTC converter in it. I had a PTC converter in it before. It wasn't loose enough, so I sent it back. They made me a new one, and so I'm on the new looser one now, and I'm also on a trans brake. This car is really loud. I'm on a Jake's D3 trans brake in the 4L80E trans, and I finally got that working now. Wow. So trans brake and looser converter is the story of the day, so we'll see if I can go any faster with those parts. Hopefully I can. I'm pretty nervous about launching on the trans brake, to be honest with you, because it doesn't really engage quickly like it's supposed to. So I've still got to get that fixed, but I decided to come today anyway because it's the last track day of the year. It's my last chance. So a little bit nervous about launching the car, but hopefully, not really launching the car, but staging in the beams correctly and not deep state or redlining basically. So anyway, let's see how it goes. Pretty good. Yeah, that was a strong launch. Woo, that felt nice, boys. That felt real nice. Man, I'm excited to find out what that run was. It probably wasn't that fast in reality, but the launch felt good, and that's exactly what I wanted. And the trans brake worked and the bump worked. So that was a successful run regardless of what the time was, in my opinion. We'll see what she did.
300
Alright guys, so that was a good pass. It was different than I thought it was going to be. I thought it left out of the hole extremely hard, and then I thought it probably didn't go all that fast, but in reality it was kind of the opposite. It left out of the hole really soft and then went pretty darn fast on the top end. So it was 1.7 60 foot, which is not good at all. But man, when it left, it sure felt good. It felt hard. But it was only 1.7, and then the time was a 10.1. I'm looking at it right here. 10.1 at 140 mile an hour. So I was real happy with the ET and the mile per hour. That says the car is running real strong in the top end. So the 1.7 60 foot, that was because I only left on 3,000 RPM. It's really like 2,900 RPM. And it was only, I think, 2.7 pounds of boost because I was at such a low RPM. So that was a super, super soft launch and still ran a 10.1. So I'm really happy with the car based on that. I thought that was a really encouraging run. Just means I need to raise the RPM on the launch and get some more RPM on the launch and get some more boost going, and then it'll leave so much harder. It should anyway. So I changed that. I went from 3,000 RPM two-step to 3,400 RPM, and I have no idea how much boost that will equal. Just have to try it and see. So I'm lined back up again to make another pass, and we'll see what she does. I also shortened up the timing retard after launch. So I've got it set to pull 8 degrees right off the hit, and then it continues pulling 8, and then it tapers down to 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 over about a 3-second period on that last pass, and I've shortened that up to a 2.5 second period. So I should get a little more power in a little quicker, which will help me, mid-track, I suppose. Won't do anything for the launch, but I felt like 3 seconds was way too long of a taper. But I'm just guessing on that kind of stuff. So anyway, more RPM on this next pass, and hopefully more boost, and hopefully a better 60 foot. So as soon as they clean up the track and let us go, I'll show you what it does. Alright guys, so I am back in the shop now. It has actually been a few days since the clips were taken there at the track. So you got to see what I did at the racetrack there and how the car performed. Basically it's running low 10s, high 9s right now. And I'm really happy with the way the track day went. I'm happy that I was able to stage the car up on the new trans brake, and that my trans brake button and my bump button are actually working, and I had no problems all day long. I made 4 passes in total, and I was able to stage and bump perfectly every time with no issues. So that was a big win for me right there alone. But on top of that, the car ran a low 10, ran a 10.1 right off the trailer first pass. So I was super stoked about that. I did not expect to go that fast right out of the gate. I was running 20 PSI, by the way. And then the next pass, I think, was the one where I blew the tires off, and then I believe it was the very next one after that, I ran a 9.9 at 141. And so I was super happy to get back in the 9s again. Feel kind of like I redeemed myself. It's been so long since I've been in the 9s with this car. Ran a 9.8 one single time last year, and then it took a whole year to make changes and work through issues and get back to the track and run another 9. So I feel like I backed up the car's ability to run a 9 at least, so I felt good about that. So the trans brake and the torque converter, that's the question. Well, obviously my 60 foots were not very good the entire day. Even on my 9.9, my 60 foot was only like I think it was a 1.6. So that's good news and bad news. Bad news is I didn't run good 60 foots and didn't run the best time possible, but that's okay. I had a lot of things to test that day, and that was just one of them. The good news is the car has a ton more left in it once I do get the launch figured out, and I can actually launch at high enough RPM. So that was my problem. To summarize what the issue was with my bad 60 foots is I just didn't have enough time at the track that day to make enough passes to dial in the RPM. So what I basically determined after spending several days thinking about it and talking to my tuner and thinking over what happened was what I really needed to do was raise my RPM way up back to where it used to be, back when I used to launch it at the track. And so that would be about 3,800 RPM approximately. So I need to get my RPM back to around 3,800. Let the boost be as high as it can possibly be at 3,800. Maybe that'll be 15 PSI, maybe it'll be 12, maybe it'll be 20, I don't know. But we want the boost as high as we can get it on the line, and we want the RPM as high as we can get it without immediately blowing the tires off when I get off the button. So that's probably going to end up being somewhere around 36 to 3,800 RPM, I would imagine. Okay, so you get that raised back up and you get your boost way up there again. And then what you do is you take your timing retard after launch and you make it way more aggressive. So mine was pulling 8 degrees. Turns out I may have needed quite a bit more than that, maybe as much as double that right on the hit. And that will keep you from blowing the tires off right after the hit. So next time out, when I have more time and more passes, we'll raise the RPM way up. Hopefully the boost will go way up, and I will already have my timing retard way up and more aggressive. And then we'll work backwards from there on the timing retard and slowly feed more and more power in it until the track can't hold anymore, or the chassis can't hold anymore, or we just start blowing the tires off. So really that's what I would have done in this video on that day at the track had I had a lot of time, but I didn't have that much time. So I'm really happy with the way things went. Unfortunately, it didn't show the true power of the trans brake and the true abilities of having a trans brake and a looser converter and what that's going to do for me. But I hope on my next trip to the track in the spring, I will be able to actually get all the full benefit of that. I will say it is really, really cool to launch in the trans brake. Works so much better than the sloppy two-step trans brake solution that I had in there. That actually worked, I thought, pretty well, but once you've launched on a trans brake, you realize there's no comparison. When you let off the button on the trans brake, that power, bam, it hits the tire right now. And it feels incredibly good. And you just know you're launching the right way. So anyway, can't wait to get back to the track with more time and be able to dial in this launch. I think this chassis got 1.3s in it on the 60 foot. On a really tuned, dialed in scenario, I think it's got 1.4s in it, probably on the average, once I get some more track time on it. So just to put it in perspective, if you don't know, had I ran a 1.4 instead of a 1.6 on this exact day on the track, that would have dropped 0.2 right off of the 60 foot, but that would have dropped as much as, and maybe even more than 0.4 off the quarter mile. So my 9.9 would have went down to a 9.5. So could have been running mid-9s on this exact day at the track had my launch been dialed in. That's how important the 60 foot is. A lot of you guys know that, but I'm just learning this stuff. So pretty cool to see what the car could have ran. So, all right. So that pretty much sums us up. I guess the next question is, what am I going to do on this car over the winter? I can't go back to the track for quite a while. So I usually like to make updates in the winter, but I don't want to do too much and actually go backwards, which is what happened last year. So I think the only thing I really want to do on the car is I want to change out that turbo. Let me switch here. So I want to change out this turbo. This is a Gen 1 Billet VS Racing 7875. And frankly, this thing is a bad dude. Like, this thing is really capable. And for the amount of money they cost, it's incredible how good this thing does. I was running 20 PSI at the track in this video, by the way. Back pressure was still below 2-to-1, but it was getting up there pretty high. So I could crank some more boost out of it a little bit, but I'm not going to get super far with it. It's pretty much tapped out as it is. So I'm trying to decide what turbo to go next to. You may remember from my other videos that I went down to the VS Racing S485 last winter and hated it. It was way too big and too laggy, and I couldn't get it to spool with the converter I had in there at the time. So I don't want to go that big again. I've decided over the course of this year, going back to this turbo, that I'm really kind of a small turbo guy. I just like the way the car drives so much better with the little 75mm turbine wheel. It's so much more responsive out on the road. It just makes the car so much more fun in the times where I do drive it on the street. And I do want to drive this car on the street more as time goes on, so I don't want to get too far away from the little turbine, but I do want more power than this turbo can deliver. This turbo is going to be maxed out about 700, which I think is about where I'm at. Maybe it'll do 750, but really it's done right there. So I got a few options on turbos. Let me know what you guys think. I can get a newer generation VS Racing 7875. They've got like 3 generations of this thing newer than the one I've got. So I could go straight to their Gen 3, and it will bolt right into this turbine housing. It'll literally just slide right in there, so I won't have to change anything else. So that would be the quickest and easiest solution. They're $6.99 right now on Black Friday special, and they say that it'll make like 150 more horsepower than this exact turbo here will, because of the changes that they made inside it, and because the compressor cover is bigger, and the turbine wheel has 9 blades instead of 10, so lower back pressure, I guess, and more higher flowing compressor wheel design. And so that would be the quickest, easiest, just kind of bolt it in and go solution. But it does leave me limited on the 75mm turbine. It's going to spool good, I'm sure, and I do want that, but that turbine will still be the ultimate limiting factor. But if it'll truly do 150 more than this turbo, then I think it'll do plenty for me for another year. It would take this car from maxing out around 700 to maxing out around, I guess, 850, which, to be honest with you, I think this car could pretty easily run high 8s with an extra 150 horsepower. As long as I can get the 60 foot working, another 150 horsepower helping me out on the top end would probably have me knocking on 890s next year, which I think would be incredible. I think that would be a wonderful thing. So Given that turbo would spool good and probably run high eights, pretty much says that that's the turbo I need to go with. And I can't come up with any turbo else that I can think of in all my research that will do those two things. Spool quick, cost not much money at all, go into the car with very little work, and still give me enough power to run eights. So I think that pretty much makes up my mind for me that that is the one I need to go with. And so I'm really anxious to get another turbo on here and kind of make that my final turbo so that I can work on getting the exhaust rebuilt. I don't like this up pipe. It's fine for the track, but it's no good for anything else. So I want to get a full exhaust back on it and get it all quiet and make it work again. And of course, this is my exhaust system over here. So I've got a valve that I built right here that opens and closes. So this 4-inch exhaust can just dump out behind the passenger tire and flow a ton, but when the valve is closed, all the exhaust has to go out there and out my full exhaust system, which is 3-inch. It'd be nice and quiet, so I'm super anxious to get back to the point where I have a quiet exhaust but on a valve. And I want to get a hood back on the car and make this thing generally more friendly to live with on the street and make it feel more like a street car again. It's gone through a big race car phase over the last year and a half or two where I've prioritized making it work at the track, and now I'm ready, now that it is working at the track, I'm ready to make it also work on the street much better. So I've got fender liners installed back in it. After 10 years of owning this car, it hasn't had any fender liners in it until now, so that's one of those things that just really makes you feel good about a car. As far as a street car, you know, you just want to have all that stuff kind of buttoned up and snapped together. It makes you feel good. So there's that, there's the hood, there's the exhaust, and a few other little things like that that will make me feel much more like I'm driving a street car around. I need to work on the idle tuning. It still wants to die occasionally in certain situations, so that'll help it feel like a street car. I need to get a radio back in it, a few little things like that. But anyway, guys, I know it's been a long time since I made a video. Appreciate you guys that watch when I do, and appreciate you guys that are following along with the project here. It continues on, and I'm going to keep developing it and making this thing work better and better for me all the time and making videos for you guys to watch. So if you have any questions, let me know down below. And if you have any comments or anything, just let me know. Otherwise, hit that thumbs up button if you would, and subscribe if you want to see more videos on the channel here. Thanks, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.